Welcome once again to your weekly update from the city of New Hope. Time to check in about many things happening throughout the city in various different departments and just some fun facts at the end as well. Joining us with the info is the mayor, Kathi Hemken. Welcome, Mayor. How are you today?
Hi, Dave. Just fine. What a gorgeous day.
It is fantastic. I know some other cities having a little flooding trouble throughout the state and other states, but nothing so far in New Hope. Is that something some of your public works crews keep a watch on as far as some of the
Oh,
creeks and things that come in the city?
very, very carefully.
I am
We don't
sure they
have
do.
we don't have any dams, but a lot of our creeks actually go underground
All right.
through
So
pipe.
thankfully, nothing like that in New Hope, but a lot going on in the city. Let's begin with some talk about elections. It is the time of the year when some of the absentee voting, believe it or not, is already starting. Tell us more, Mayor.
It's unbelievable. It's June and it's starting. So absentee voting for primary, you can start doing that on the 28th of June, this Friday. You can do a couple things. You can go to that website that's being shown and you can request an absentee ballot, or you can go into City Hall and get an absentee ballot.
Mhm.
When you do that, you can also register to vote if you need to. If you live in an apartment and happen to change apartments, even in the same building, you have to re-register. So it doesn't take long to do that. Just want to tell people that New Hope will not be on the primary because we don't have a primary election. We don't have enough people that have signed up or filed to have a primary. But there are state offices and federal offices that'll be on that primary. Keep in mind that when you vote in a primary, you have to designate a party.
Very good. Good information there. And again, a lot more information, mnvotes.org. You can find out more. We've been
Yeah.
talking about the Rave Awards, time for people to maybe nominate themselves or a neighbor. Again, how does this work?
Well, you're putting some amount of time and resources into your residential property. We want to know about it. We want to acknowledge that people are keeping their houses up and doing some nice things with their gardens and refabrishing their houses inside. So you have until the 29th of June. You can nominate yourself or you can nominate a neighbor. You have till then. The nomination form is really easy. You can get that online by going into the New Hope website. Or you can also go into City Hall and get a form and fill it out. Quite easy to nominate somebody.
Here's that website, newhopemn.gov. You can find that form there. Other things happening in community development, a new business that is coming to town, but with a little bit of a twist as far as some funding. Give us some background here.
Well, the name of the business is Little Sombrero Salsa.
Mhm.
I've got my chips and I'm ready. So they're applying for a loan through the Minnesota Investment Fund. And when you do that, those investment funds have to come through the city. It's no financial burden to the city. I think they do that from the state so that we can keep an eye on the business, make sure they do what they're saying they're going to do. If they open, they're looking at 30 to 40 new jobs in the city, and they've got a lot of contracts already with the bigger stores to sell this also. I haven't
Fantastic.
tasted it yet.
All right, we'll keep an eye out for that. Now, under community development, talk about some homes throughout the city. We'll get to scattered site in a second, but here's an interesting story about a home that is around a park, and it looks like there might be some combining to make the park a little bigger. Help us understand that.
So there's only it's a Lions Park, and there's a house in the corner. It's been there forever. We have been trying to buy it, but just haven't been able to. Well, it's for sale. So we have a purchase agreement signed with them, and it'll go to the EDA meeting tonight on the 24th. If the EDA approves that, then they'll set up a closing. Once they're closed on that, that house will be torn down, and that'll become part of the park. We have suggested that they contact like Habitat for Humanity to see if there's anything in the house that they can use.
Mhm.
There's other resale groups that come in and take things out of the house. I don't know if they'll have a police practicing in the house like they do or fire. We'll know that later after we know that we've got the property. But the reason we're doing that is that that house really doesn't belong in the park. And so
Mhm.
that's the reason we're buying that.
Speaking of purchase agreements, you have three other agreements to talk about, and this is part of the scattered site housing. How are these three properties moving ahead?
Well, it's a long process, and so you have to work at it a lot. So there's three properties that have signed purchase agreements on, and we'll be actually closing on those three properties in July. And then after we close on them, We'll get some bids. First of all, we got to make sure that there's no hazardous materials in there. We'll get a hazardous material survey, a tree survey, and after all that's done, then we hire a demolition team to go in, and all three of those properties, the houses will be torn down, and then we sell the lots to a developer. And of course, they have to come to the city and we approve the plans for the house so we know we're getting the kind of house we want. And then there'll be 3 new houses going up. But all of this is going to take close to a year to get done.
We'll keep you up to date as that moves along. A couple scattered site properties that are underway and actually moving along pretty quickly up at 5692 Boone Place. Things moving ahead there. What is the latest?
Well, XL Energy is connecting the power, which I think is kind of a cool deal. So once the power gets connected, and I'm sure the water will get, if it's not connected already, it will get connected. Then the house is ready to be sold. I know there's some yard work that has to be done, but with all this rain and all this stuff going on, they want to make sure that the weather is right and get that tree planted that they put in the yard. So we should have a buyer in that house probably by the end of the summer.
One more stop over on 50th Avenue, a couple properties there side by side. How is that coming along?
50th and Winnetka. There's 2 lots. There's the internal lot and the external. The external lot is the one that's right on Winnetka. So the internal lot is getting a 2-story house. That framing is just going up now. So they've got the basement blocks in. I think they poured the basement, not sure about that. But I know the framing, the outside framing is going up. So that should be exciting to watch that get developed.
Final note in community development is the upcoming business networking group. They've got a meeting scheduled for early July. Give us those details, Mayor.
Well, Crystal and New Hope have combined their networking group, their business networking group. So that's going to be July 3rd at 2 o'clock. It's going to be at a place called Principal Living, and that's at 9405 36th Avenue. So I looked that up. What is Principal Living? It is actually a tonal chiropractic practice. And I looked a little further. That means it's a not harsh massage. It's more a tender massage, and to get the bones and the muscles all to work together. So it should be interesting. We'll get a little presentation from them on exactly what they do and how they do it and why they do it. And then we get to network with the rest of the people that there are at the meeting.
All right, that meeting again is on July 3rd in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, and it is free. Let's now head to the police department, talk about some of the things happening there. We mentioned recently about the cadet program and helping out some younger folks to get their foot wet, I guess, a little bit in the field, and they have found another experience. What have they been doing?
So this is called Growth Through Opportunity, and it's so that these kids can get some work experience so they can put that on their resume. So these the 2 young men that we have, they went to the evidence technician and spent the day with her, learning what they do with evidence when it comes in. And they also did a ride along with the police department. So they'll move along to the other departments in the city just to see what they're doing. They don't just sit and see, they actually do some work too. So this is a good opportunity for those 2 guys, and we're really happy to have them.
3 other special events that the police department was part of recently here. One was at Target Field. What was that event?
One of our officers went to that event for Jamel Mitchell, the officer that was shot. We always try to be there for those officers that are down like that. So we sent one of our captains.
Next special event was at Broadway Village, and they had a very unique event with a very unique name that has some historical ties. Mayor, you've got the history lesson for us here.
I do. First, I'm going to tell you the name of the event, and then I'll tell you the history behind it. So the name of the event was A Day After Freedom Dinner, and it was at Broadway Village. So in 1863, when Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, the slaves were freed. That information never got to the slaves in Texas until the 19th of June. And then that was actually Freedom Day when they'd all been. So that's why we celebrate Juneteenth. And this day after Freedom Day, that's why the dinner was there.
Very nice event. Final special event was something to do with the Special Olympics. And I think about everyone from the city was out for this event.
It was. So 9 of our police, well, not just officers, the police department, 9 of them, and 4 of their children took place in the Special Olympics Law Enforcement Torch Run. I don't know where exactly this was, but it was anytime we can be out in the community doing something, to have their faces shown, that's a good thing.
Fantastic event. Let's go to Public Works, and you can probably guess what these folks have been busy with. Rain and what comes after rain. How have they been doing and what have they been looking into?
Well, anything you throw out of your car gets washed into the street with this heavy rain. And then the catch basins in the street get clogged. So these guys are all cleaning the catch basins of all the crap that's been, and even leaves and brush and things like that, cleaning that all out. And then they have to do the outlets into the ponds. They have to clean those too. Not exactly a pretty job, but it's got to be done. Otherwise, that water doesn't get into the sewer system.
And it looks like one other thing they were doing is looking at rain gardens. So again, there's rain gardens, I understand, throughout the city, and I bet they've been a little affected by the rain as well.
Well, they're set up to catch the rain,
right?
But what happens is when it rains so hard, they catch too much rain, and it's nowhere to go except sink in the soil. So they go and check those to make sure that debris hasn't washed in there. The plants are pretty hardy, and they can withstand some of that, but they want to make sure that there's no debris. And some of these rain gardens, like the one at the golf course, is on our land, so we have to take care of that. The ones that are on private property, they take care of those themselves.
So when they haven't been watching the rain, they've been watching the streets. And we've got some updates on some of the transportation routes around the city and some of that construction. First one is 36th Avenue and the bridge. Where are we now?
Well, they meet weekly on this thing. I don't know when the bridge is going up. I don't know what's going on, but I know that they know, and that's all that matters. So we're doing a lot of work beforehand. So we finished that street on 36th. I'm sure Plymouth is doing the same thing. So when the bridge actually does go up and they do that final work, it'll be able to all be done and we won't have to block the street off again. So I think it's really good planning on our part and on Plymouth's part to do that road work before that bridge gets put in.
One quick other 169 note, I was just driving down it today and I noticed that the beams are across the roadway at 63rd Avenue now. So there's at least a sight of progress going on there. And maybe that one will be back sometime this year, correct?
Yes, but people should really pay attention because when a lot of times on the weekend is when they're going to actually put the bridge in, and they'll close down 169 and they close it down for quite a ways on both directions. So just be watching of that. And if you've got to use 169 and you're in a hurry, make sure you know that you can actually get through on that.
Great advice. Another project they're watching is Louisiana and 31st, some reconstruction there. How is that one coming along?
Again, they're doing that on a weekly basis, so they know that the pipes are in. They know where everything is going to go. That should be completed in the next couple of weeks. And I know all the mill and overlay that they've been doing around the city, they're just about done with that. If it looks like it's done, it's probably not quite done. There's a lot of punch list stuff that they have to fix. They're fixing some curbs here and there. Typically, when we do curb replacement, we don't do the whole block. We do it only where it needs to be done. So it looks a little strange for about a year. You'll have this nice white concrete and this gray concrete. Mm-hmm. By the end of the year, it'll all look the same.
Let's go to Park and Rec now, and a lot happening here. And the first note is something that you might want to get involved in because there are so many classes and sessions starting right now. Mayor, what's the mix? It looks like everything under the sun.
Everything under the sun. I mean, basketball, baseball, pickleball, lots of camps for big people, camps for little people. If you look in your book, your Park and Rec book, it'll just list all the camps that are there and the cost of those camps. Speaking of cost, we have a program to give scholarships to people who might not be able to afford the full price. I know if you've got a few kids, it starts to get kind of expensive. They can go to City Hall. They need to bring ID that shows they live in New Hope, and they can get some help with that. The city will pay half of the fee, and the person will pay the other half of the fee. So just know that there is some help out there. We want to get those kids in these camps if we can. It's just something to do for the summertime.
Two other fun ones that I saw in the note here was Life Under a Log. That sounds like a good one. What would that be about? And also horseback riding camp. So there you go. A couple of the neat opportunities through New Hope Park and Rec. It is ball time. A lot of people going out to the ball fields, and it looks like some of the younger ones are already out there playing.
They are. So they've started the T-ball practice and something else called pitch by coach. So I had no idea what that was. And I called and they said, Kathy, really? Pitch by coach. So the coach apparently is the pitcher as opposed
Mhm.
to having the ball on a tee, like the T-ball. And
Mhm.
I'm sure what happens is the coach pitches softly
Yes,
to make
nice and
sure that the
gentle.
kid, that's the gist of it.
That's that next step up from the T-ball. Here's another one that's coming up that the city is working on that might be very interesting. Flower decorating classes. So tell us about this process of how some of these new ideas come about and maybe come to be.
Well, in that little booklet, that takes a lot of time and effort to get all of those classes in there. They want to make sure they have classes for teens and adults. So they're working with a vendor on a flower decorating class for teens and adults. Hopefully, if that works out, it'll be in the booklet, and there'll be a cost for that. But where it is, you'll find it in there. But gosh, just a new thing to do.
Very fun. We've been talking a lot about trees, Park and Rec and New Hope, keeping an eye on those trees. Where are we now in some of the replanting process?
So the boulevard trees that they had scheduled are almost all in. They've got a few they're going to try to get in this week. When it rains, they can't. They want the water, but when it rains, they really can't get the tree in. So they want to put the tree in, then they want it to rain, but you know how that goes. So that's just about done. If you had thought you had a tree coming and it's not in yet, wait till at least the end of the week because it might be coming. If you did not arrange for a tree or you don't have one by the end of this week, you need to call the forester and remind them that you've got a tree coming, or at least sign up for a tree if you haven't done that. And that's only on the trees that they removed from the boulevards already.
Here's another neat partnership between Park and Rec Department and businesses in the city. And this is an ongoing partnership to keep some parks clean. What happens and how does this group then end up a day of hard work?
We have an engineering company called Stantec that we use, and we have a Stantec engineer who's usually doing the infrastructure projects. But because Stantec is an engineering firm, they volunteer. They do something called a Stantec Opportunity Day, and what they do is they bring a whole team of people out from 8 in the morning till 11, and they pull weeds where needed. They plant plants where needed. They do some raking. They just do some cleaning up of the city, and then at 11 o'clock, they all go over to the golf course and they have a picnic. They do a barbecue for our staff, not only for their staff that are with, but
Mhm.
for our staff too. So thank you very much, Stantec, not only for what you do, but for feeding us too.
That is very nice. All right. You mentioned the golf course. Let's head there and talk about some of the activities. And here's another business partner of the city that is using the golf course. Center Point Energy, I understand, is going to be out there utilizing some of the golf course space.
They are. So we had a couple grad parties this last weekend, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. And then Centerpoint Energy is having I'm guessing it's a barbecue from 10:30 to 1:30,
Mhm.
and they'll have their little meeting outside in the back patio. So that patio is used a lot, and that grill works out really nice. Nobody has to clean house. They can just have their parties out there.
It is a fantastic spot. Over to the ice arena we go, and we get a list of some of the things going on. And this paragraph keeps growing. I would think at this time of the year it would shrink, but that's not the case, Mayor.
No, it's not. So we've got the Armstrong and Cooper girls and boys hockey practicing there. We've got a lot of camps going on there. Apparently, they have a camp where you're a goaltender. There's a goaltending camp, and if you're a shooter, I don't know what that's called. They have a camp to teach you how to shoot. They teach you how to block or whatever it is they do. So all kinds of camps that are going on. We've also got Benilde and Tortino Grace. Their high school kids are practicing there along with the 8 to 10 men's group that have playing in a league that are there. So lots of stuff going on. I know all these people know that they can get ice time in this time of the year. And what they're doing now at the ice arena is they're starting to schedule winter ice time. So this would be time for the games. Lots of youth hockey that's going on. So the youth are there doing practicing. Through all this, they're still having skating lessons. And I don't
Mhm.
know how they fit all that in, but that ice arena is pretty well used all year round.
Another spot that's well used right now, and especially today on the Monday we're recording this, it's supposed to be in the upper 80s, but like heat index in the mid 90s. And I bet the aquatic park would be a nice place to go, wouldn't it, Mayor?
Oh, it is so busy. So on weekends, it's open 11 to, I'm sorry, weekends it's open 11 to 7. Weekdays it's open 12 to 8. The reason it's a little later on weekdays is because we have swimming lessons, and so they come first. Also, this Sunday or Saturday, the 29th, they're going to have another talk time. That means the 0 to 5-year-olds can come and play in the very shallow pool with an adult, of course, without a lot of people around. So these little kids just love it. It was a big success last week. I'm sure it will be this week too. A lot of those little kids coming in. It's 9:45 or 10:45. Their attention span's not real big, so they only get an hour.
Right.
So there's also in the mornings, there's some water walking going on, adult swimming, lap swimming that's going on. Just a lot of things that you can do in the pool before it actually opens. So go online and look, or you can go into that book again and look and see what the times are and what there is to offer.
All right, newhopemn.gov is that website. And again, here's what that book looks like. The little soccer guy here, a lot of information about the pool and much more in there. But what you won't find in that book, and you only find from the mayor, is a little history about the city. And we're going to take a moment to go back to the 1800s, Mayor, and talk a little bit about the early days of this area before there was a New Hope. What was here?
So, this just amazes me. Well, they said in this article that because of the good fertile soil, I thought we just had clay, but apparently we have good fertile soil. It was many Native American Indian tribes that lived here. And around 1850, a group of European settlers came, mostly German, and they stayed in this area. And they named the area, they wanted to name it New Opportunity, because they're looking at an opportunity to farming. They realized that was kind of a long name. So they actually named it New Hope in 1850. So then New Hope became part of the Crystal Township in 1936. So it was the Crystal Township, but we were sort of a little area of that. So in 1953, New Hope actually split away from Crystal Township and became the village of New Hope. And then we became a city, and here we are.
Very interesting history there. And I know that there's some interesting borders between Crystal and New Hope as well. So there is a Crystal history special that was just produced, and we're going to work in the future here at CCX Media with New Hope on that. But some interesting stories there, Mayor, about the boundaries. It's not straight like 169 is straight on the west side. That other side is a little jagged, isn't it?
Well, it's because of the farms.
Yeah.
Some of the farms, when we were part of the Crystal Township, this was all farming community here. There were like 500 people. And the farm is what decided, these 40-acre farms, they decided whether they wanted to go to New Hope or stay as part of Crystal. So there is a piece of Crystal that's totally surrounded by New Hope.
Yeah.
And there's a piece of New Hope that's totally surrounded by Crystal, because those farms is how they wanted to go, whether they wanted to go with New Hope or stay with Crystal. And that's why that border, that eastern border of New Hope, is so convoluted.
All right, there's your history lesson for the day of the city of New Hope. Mayor, thanks again for all of the time today and all of the information. Again, newhopemn.gov is the website if you want to find out more. And stick with us. The mayor's put together a few announcements of things coming up in the community that we're going to show you right now. Mayor, have a great week. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Dave. Take care. Bye-bye.
Learn more about The Connection at ccxmedia.org and follow us on social media.